Hi, and welcome to the R2RB Indie Artist Podcast Series. And today I have with me Joe Baione. Joe lives right here in Delaware with his family. Joe is an international jazz vibraphonist. His newest album release is Vibe Check. He'll be playing at the Jazz Blues Wine and Brew May 3rd in Berlin, Maryland. And thank you, Joe, for joining me. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you are welcome. So I always like to ask one or two questions to get us warmed up. What was your most memorable moment in public education?
Hmm, that's a good one. I think when I moved over to Lake Forest Central, it was a brand new building in 2001, and it was open. It opened like um, the same day 9/11 happened, which was crazy.
Wow.
So it was wild. But that year, that was the first year that I taught at that particular school, um, and I got Teacher of the Year.
Oh,
So that was pretty awesome. That I was teaching fifth and sixth grade band at the time, um, and it was pretty wild because you don't hear about the arts getting it as much anymore as you do. So that was
true.
quite an honor for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think the other thing was too. I Benny Golson was a mentor to me, and he came to the school and worked with the kids, and that was pretty cool. As also, we did a jazz arrangement that was specially arranged by a good friend of mine in Minnesota, Larry McDonough. So that was cool.
That must have been really cool. Oh my
Yeah, it was
gosh.
awesome.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the second question is, if you could meet any music artist, past or present, who would it be and why?
I think for me, I really think Prince evolutionized the music industry, and I think it's awesome because he helped with racial diversity. He was his own producer. He wrote his own music, and he had his own style that was different than what everyone else was doing, and he kind of evolved it into one. And man, that's kind of how I am when I try to approach my music, and
Right.
I like that's pretty cool because I mean, he did everything.
You did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And even the gender, he went so many different layers that it's just
Yeah.
fascinating. So, and the
Yeah,
other one,
that definitely would be an interesting conversation.
oh my God, it would be amazing. So, I think the other one would be Bill Evans. He's a famous jazz musician who's no longer with us, but when I listen to his music and then I listen to his interviews, I've heard a few interviews from Miriam McPartland when he interviewed with her,
Mm.
and he's just very knowledgeable about the music, and he kind of tells you why he's playing what he's playing, telling a story, and that's what I try to relate to when I do it. So those kind of things relate to me, and I think that's why I think it would be pretty cool to meet those. I wish I could meet them.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you definitely have had an interesting career alongside being a vibraphonist. And I gave a little hint of as what you were doing prior to that. But tell us about your first career before you retired.
Well, I taught public school as a band director for 27 years. I did mostly fifth grade band throughout, and then it changed to fourth grade. And then I also, where I was teaching, there was a problem with the band director at the high school level. We were going through them quite a few, so they asked me to go half time. So I had to do elementary band halftime during the morning and change my whole mindset and do
Oh my God.
the high school in the afternoon. So I was like exhausted. But I told them I would do that for a couple of years to get the program going again at the high school level until they found somebody, and they did, and that was quite an experience. And I also did middle school during that, somewhere in between with I actually taught with my brother, which was pretty cool, who now has my job when I
Really?
retired at the elementary. And I taught with a great friend of mine, team taught Dave DeLong, who it was just a fun time. And it's all about seeing those kids evolve,
Oh
man.
my God.
It's amazing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. What is it? What was it like to work with the fifth graders versus the high schoolers? I mean, that had to be quite a bit of a difference.
oh my gosh, it was you pretty much had to become a different person every day. And I think that's what exhausted me. So the fifth graders are more beginners, but they evolve throughout the year. But they're playing basically 8 to 20 measure songs. In the high school, you go and you're really working, big time songs. Not only was I doing the jazz, but I was doing the concert band, and then it was just a whole new ball game. But I honestly really enjoyed it because it stretched me and it helped me see a different level as far as where you can actually get these students.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That must
Yeah.
have been really rewarding. Absolutely. So how many years before you retired did you put into public education?
Oh, 27. Yeah, I did 2 years in Maryland and then I went to Delaware the rest of the time. So yeah.
All right. And so what was the turning point for you when you finally came to, your pivotal moment of that you were going to really going to retire?
Yeah, I think what happened was I had to during the pandemic, I had to actually teach fourth and fifth grade band over on Zoom. So, they've never picked up an instrument. It was crazy and wild. And somehow the administrators would tell me, how did you do it? And I really actually enjoyed it. But at the same time, I was really able to see that education after COVID, it was going in a different direction. My father, when he was a band director and as well, he went too long and I could see the stress and frustration. And as wonderful as he was, I started noticing he wasn't enjoying it. And I wanted to get to the point where I'm like, I love teaching the kids, but I want to go out on top and I can pursue my music. And honestly, the pension from 27 to 30 was basically not much at all. So
Yeah.
it was an easy decision it was a hard decision leaving the kids because I remember the superintendent telling me at the time, he said, what is it going to take to keep you? I said 100, comma 000. He started laughing. He said, I wish I could do that. So,
Right. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Wow. Well, good. That's a good way to, end your time at the public education where you were still happy enough, so frustrated leaving.
exactly. I was
Yeah.
very happy. And, I was I was the clown and kind of kept it real in the school energy and stuff. So I miss that aspect of the introvert in me talking to the people and dealing with that aspect. But I also have private lessons I do like 3 or 4 students. So that's pretty cool that I can
Oh,
keep my
cool.
hand in it. And then I do some subbing for one of the teachers in the districts ever needs me and I'm available. So
That's great. Oh, that's
yeah,
really great. All
yeah.
right. So now you're three years
This is
full-time
my
music.
third year. Yep, this is my
Yeah.
third year. Yeah,
And
it's crazy.
and how has it been?
It's been good. It's the music. It's quite an adjustment because I'm home with my wife used to be home doing the uh, working Zoom and online all the time. And
Right.
now she's in the office, and now I'm home with my dog, and she's she does not like it when Daddy's not paying attention to her. So it gives me a chance to practice and work hard and compose music and do different things and do the groceries and do different things that, my wife's not able to do as she used to do. So, and
Sure.
travel more.
All right. Okay. Well, that works. I like that.
Yep.
So when you're not doing music, what do you like to do to take a break from the crazy world? I mean, just really, get away from it all.
Yeah. And it is crazy world right now. Absolutely. I think the biggest thing I love to do is with my wife, we watch a lot of the Netflix and the Hulu and all that good stuff. And I'm kind of into all those shows. And when we run out on those shows, we want to do more. And the other thing I do is since I was 10, from my father, I was an avid baseball sports card collector.
Oh, well.
So, yeah, so I still do that when I can, when I have the time to do it, collect and do some different things. Listen to the music and just I'm a big sports fan. I'm a big Philadelphia. So I'm really excited that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, of course.
What a game. Oh
But
my God.
and I was like the parade. They announced the parade Friday, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got 2 gigs Friday, and I can't go.
Go.
Life of the musician.
Right. Well, speaking of life as a musician, why the vibraphone?
Well, I started out as a percussion or drummer, percussion, snare drum, probably in high school. I remember my father had a good friend of his who used to sell instruments, and he bought a set of vibes. They're not the big vibes, but they were the starter vibes. And he said, I just bought them thinking maybe you'd be interested in trying them out. So I'm like, Okay, so I really dug him and it was really cool. And then I got into college and I started playing, the jazz drum set and doing all the drum set stuff. Not much on the vibes, but probably my junior, senior year, I started doing the vibes a lot more and I had to do some recitals on it. And the next thing I know, I'm like doing gigs and I had a passion for it. It was different than drums. As good as I was, I thought as a drummer and the vibes had put me in a different out of body experience when you play
Wow.
it soothed the soul. And, I started getting gigs left and right. I'm like, dang. So that's where it happened.
Wow. And what about the jazz part of it all? Were you always hooked on the jazz?
Yeah, my father was he was a clarinetist, saxophonist, jazz musician, composer. And I think from the time I fell out of the womb, had the jazz. He would have the records on yeah, especially on the weekends, because he taught band, of course, with my mother. She was an accordion player.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so they taught together. I don't know how they did it for them in 30 some years, but they did. But it was cool because you always heard like Dave Brubeck or Miles Davis or Bill
Oh,
Evans or
wow.
Carmen McRae, whatever was out
Well, so
there.
the jazz was just running through your veins right from the beginning.
Yeah, it was involved. It was the evolution of, yep. So
So
I guess I had no choice. Um,
absolutely. What about do you have, you mentioned a brother, anybody else,
yeah, my
musician?
brother's a bass player. He plays bass with me quite a few when I do a lot of local gigs, sometimes some regionals. And my other brother was a guitarist. He was phenomenal, but he stopped playing. So he got a real full-time job. So, but he stopped playing. He still loves it. But my mom, of course, played accordion. So it was the Partridge family, but the Bayonne family instead. Yeah. So, but my brother still plays bass with me, so that's cool. But
Oh, that's
it's
very cool.
and I think I learned a lot from them. Even though my older brother's not playing per se, I know what he did and his techniques and all that good stuff. So
Right.
you learn that. So.
The vibraphone has such a distinct sound to it, but I don't know if everybody even is aware of what a vibraphone is. It's not one of those things that, when you're talking about percussions, maybe I guess if you're into the percussions, you do. But, when you're thinking of an indie artist, it's, everybody's mind goes straight to a guitar or the bass, but not so much the vibraphone. Has the vibraphone gotten are people more aware of it these days?
I think they are because it's starting to pop up more and more. The thing with the vibraphone, where you may not get the good thing about it, it's a very obscure instrument, of course, like you just said, and it's starting for me. I've done really well, but I don't get the gigs normally like a drummer or a pianist or a bassist gets. They're probably playing every night. For me, when a band calls, when a pianist or a rhythm section is looking for an instrument, they kind of tend to go towards a trumpet, trombone. It's before they say vibraphone. And
Right.
nothing against the players of the vibraphone, but it's kind of like the common instrument to go to. And then once in a while, I'll get a call to do the sideman, which is really cool because I love doing that. And then most of my stuff is as a leader though, which is awesome too, because the good thing about the vibraphonist is you do get booked as a leader quite a bit because it's not your everyday jazz group.
Right.
It's an interesting instrument which kind of gives the audience a different perspective, and people want to see it. Wow, look, what is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, it is really cool. I've watched some of your YouTube videos, and to watch you perform along with the other guys, it's just this. Like I said, the sound is so distinct, and you
Oh,
just get into it.
yeah, I love it. It's like the passion. Like I said, I like playing the drums too. I had a jazz scholarship on the drum set too, but there's something about the vibes that just kind of puts another level out there for your
Yes,
aesthetic. You know,
absolutely. How
yeah.
about do you have influencers from the vibraphone world?
Yeah, I'm a big. There's kind of the two mallet school versus the four mallet school, and I'm more the two mallet with like Milt Jackson and Bobby Hutcherson and Lionel Hampton. I actually played with Lionel Hampton when I was in college. I actually played drums, and he played the vibes, and I was backing him up. He was visiting our school, and it was quite an experience. So it's pretty cool. And I have a set. Here's the funny story. That set of vibraphone that he played with that night was loaned to him, by one of the musicians in the area. And that musician recently passed, and I got called from Mid South Audio to if I wanted the vibes because he didn't know anybody else that would want them.
Oh, wow.
They were signed by Lionel Hampton, so they're my practice vibes in my studio here.
Oh my God, how cool is that? I mean,
It's
sorry
so
for the
awesome.
passing, but oh my gosh, wow.
I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So, who has had the most considerable influence on your career?
I would say my father. He passed about 12 years ago,
Mm,
but he really taught me how to look at not as the instrument playing, of course, definitely, but more about the composing and the writing and how he kind of thought. And his music has helped me not only kind of compose what he was thinking, but it kind of made me realize that I don't want to compose like everyone else. I want to
yeah.
compose what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and tell a story instead of just writing music when I do the charts. So.
Yeah. Somebody else said something similar to that too. Just, you're doing the music for yourself. And then,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
you're right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not trying to do it for the world, the outside world, but doing it for yourself because that'll take care of itself.
Yeah. Absolutely. And besides your dad being a mentor, did you have somebody else?
Yeah, I studied. I had the fortunate to study with the jazz legend. He just passed this year, Benny Golson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was amazing to me. I used to we email and talk quite a bit, and his intellectuality was just in another planet. And
Mm.
he would not only talk about the music to me, but how to be in the business. And I remember him telling me, "Don't just be a performer. Keep doing what you're doing in the education." Because at the time when I was meeting him, I was actually had my first album, and we can talk more about that later. But that first album got Grammy nominated
Wow.
in
Yeah.
2008, and
Yep.
he said, "Keep the education going. Try to find different outlets for the music, just not performing because it's hard to survive." It's a shame because my new album he knew was going to be coming out.
Oh,
I sent him a little preview of it. Just we played those songs at a concert, the same group, a couple weeks before not a couple weeks, maybe a couple months before I actually recorded. And, oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear the new album. And
aw,
that was 2 weeks before he passed. So
aw, what a great mentor.
yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that leads us right into your first album was Oh Yeah in 2008.
Oh yeah, 2008. Oh yeah. So that was pretty awesome. I was very young and not as knowledgeable as I was, but I was able to compose some music that really first helped, got me going in the industry, and it really went pretty quick. I mean, I started performing at different festivals because the key to getting heard is the airplay on the radio stations. When the festival is here on the radio stations, they know that it's popular, it's getting out there.
Right.
It really was. I mean, I was playing in Trinidad. I was teaching during the week, playing in Trinidad, the Bahamas, San Jose, California, all over Minnesota, all over the country. I had to pull back a bit because my wife was ready to divorce me because I was never home with the three young kids. So I had a decision to make. I could continue to play local, nationally, and regionally and kind of keep it, and keep my education and get the pension
Right.
and realize that I could retire when I'm 50 and I could really pursue it again full time. And that's what I did. And my wife and the marriage survived and the kids are growing up and we're now empty nesters. And she says, "Go ahead and do what you want now."
It's good. It's all good. Oh my gosh, I like that. That is so great. And now in 2025, you have your new album release, Vibe Check. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So how long had you been? Let's just go back to, oh yeah, how long did that take for you to put together and release?
Usually for me, doing an album is I kind of give myself about a year and a half, 2 year window because the first half of the year, my ideas are, I just kind of put ideas in my head and I listen to what's out there right now. And I try to evolve by listening to the other genres and see, okay, how can I incorporate that with the jazz to make it something that's not out there, but not only that, that's something that I enjoy, that I want to go to another kind of area in the jazz and see what happens. So
Right.
yeah, so and then I kind of put it together. I write in, I do the charting and stuff like that. It's a process to get the recording, then the mastering, CDs at the time was very popular. Then get it all packaged and ready to go with the graphic design. I mean, it's a whole process.
It is a process.
It's a lot. And
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder if people know how much time and work it takes to put an album out there. It's just insane.
It is insane. And if you're doing it all yourself, you definitely need that time. And people don't know, those that aren't behind the scenes. I mean, and including myself, before I started doing this, I had no idea. I mean, I had some idea, but really when the actuality of, like you said, the planning and the writing and, recording and editing and mastering, and then finally getting to release it, and then finally having to promote it. It's a full-time job, right?
It is a full-time job. I mean, I have people that do the engineering and mastering, but it's just a process of, going through it with them, because you're with them and going through and seeing, okay, what do you want to edit here? What do you want to edit here?
Right.
And then you got the promotions of the airplay. That's another whole thing where you have somebody that's helping market you.
And so back to Vibe Check. What were your inspirations for that album?
Here's a crazy story that's really been really cool to put out there. My father and his brother in the 70s wrote a musical called The Evangelist. My father's brother did a lot of this script, but my dad wrote the music, and it was more Broadway based, and they always wanted to have it, produced and stuff like that. And they had some opportunities, but it just didn't work out like they wanted it to. But before my father died, I told him, I said, I'm going to have your songs out there one day so people can actually hear them. So 3 of the songs on my album, or is it 4? I'm trying to think here. 3 of the songs on that album, I rearranged them for jazz, and they are now on Vibe Check, and it turned out marvelous. And it's just, I can't express how emotional and in a good way and in a sad way as well, him going, not being able to hear that. But then I realized, maybe he's upstairs. He's hearing it. He's hearing it. But what an honor to do that. And
my gosh.
That was just amazing. And then it was the first time that I really was able to really feel confident about my writing, because there was always that it was good. A lot of people loved it, but I didn't feel as confident. With this one, I felt confident because I knew what I wanted to do in my own direction. So that was awesome. And then the positives and the reviews and the airplay it's getting, and it's just pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I was talking to my promoter that does the airplay for me, Jazz Dog Promotion, Shauna Machowski, and she's in Pittsburgh. And she said, for somebody not done an album since 2008, they normally don't end up on the Jazz Week chart bound, because top 50 is the Jazz Week charts. And, you're hearing all about your Samara Joy and all the ones that a lot of people know. Right now I'm about 60, so I'm 10 from getting in the top 50, which even if I do or don't, that's like, wow, what happened in just this album of being not recording an album in many years. So
right.
I think that's what makes it all so cool for me to see that.
The whole journey of it.
Yeah. That's one of the tunes in there, the journey.
Yeah, right? Oh my God. Yeah. Was there a particular reason, such a large span in between the 2 albums? Life gets in the way.
Yeah, it's my wife. I did it. I wanted to.
Wait a minute. I said life, not wife. I don't want to get in trouble.
Oh, no. You're fine. I had a decision to make. I know a lot of the musicians who were divorced by doing that all the time with young kids. And I said to myself, I could do my career and continue what I'm doing, and just telling my wife, look, I'm sorry, I'm traveling. You're going to have to take care of the kids, and our marriage isn't going to work. I'll be there when I can. I'm not going to be that deadbeat father. And I realized I want to be the best husband and father I can be. My time will come, and I can still perform and do what I do. That was a sacrifice I made. And a lot of guys that talked to me said they respect me for that, because, I'm kind of reinventing myself again now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And good for you because it's not easy. I mean, you had, especially when an indie artist having the passion and knowing what you want to do. You knew what your path was was going to
Exactly.
be, but doing what you did and, family first and then your career.
Really, yeah. It
Yeah.
has to be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
Awesome.
more important the kids need you, and
Mhm.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Especially with three. It's a busy time. That is
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely.
So not only do you perform with your daughter Alexis, but she provides the vocals on Come Close. First, beautiful voice and a beautiful song. Did
Oh,
you ever
thank
imagine that you would be working with your daughter?
No, not on the recording. It was pretty cool because I was writing the chart and I said to myself, I want to write something different. So when I wrote Come Close, at first it was kind of a Nora Jones kind of bluesy feel. Then Alexis was talking to me. I was talking to my wife. I'm like, I don't know. I'd love for Alexis to do this. And so Alexis says, I would love it because she's a phenomenal. She was background on her. She was in Florida working for Universal and Warner Brothers. She was doing well. She was dancing, singing, acting, had a really great thing going on and wanted to move to, New York or the city down the line. And then COVID hit and it kind of
Oh,
messed her
right.
all up because everything shut down. And then
Right.
when you went back to it, it was all different producers and, she had to reinvent herself there. So this was a good opportunity for her. I woke up one day and I said, I'm changing Come Close and I'm going to do something different. I feel a reggae. So I did like a reggae jazz feel on it. And she says, You're going to introduce me to the jazz world with me singing a reggae. And it worked marvelous. It was
Oh my
phenomenal.
God. It is. It's a phenomenal piece. Absolutely. It definitely worked. And that's funny because I mean, I knew it was a reggae piece and I didn't know what the story behind it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. So,
That's awesome. Now, I know that you also have two other children. Are they in the music as well?
I mean, no, they don't play. My oldest son, when I taught high school band, he was actually a baritone and a bass player, and he was a very, very good musician. And then my youngest, he was a big athlete. Of course, I was an athlete too, but I kind of did both. But now it's kind of hard to do both. So he was a big athlete, but he loves music. They both all love music. My wife was a vocalist. Even though my sons aren't doing the musical instrument, they love it and they love seeing the career. They love seeing me flourish and the music out there, and
I
and
bet. I
so
bet. Oh, that's cool. That's cool that
yeah,
continues on with you, your wife, and your kids as well, doing the
yeah.
music together. That's really cool. Have you ever considered an independent label?
I think I might down the line. It's interesting because that seems to be where a lot of the musicians are starting to go.
Hmm.
Because right now I hear a lot of musicians with the labels that you're still paying for everything. Of course, they're paying for your marketing, and they have the ability to really help you go do some to get, I guess, to get to play point A to point B, touring and all that stuff. They have that ability more, but again, you're getting a percentage and a portion of that, and I don't know the whole nine yards of it. But speaking to other musicians, they are going indie, making their own label, and that's a good consideration maybe for the next one. Because I already have my Joe Baione music, and my group. I go by the Joe Baione Vibraphone Experience.
Right.
So that's a great question because I've actually thought of that, and we'll see. But I do have a couple of record labels interested, but I don't. Again, it's changed, it's evolved since COVID and stuff like that, where
Right.
you're still paying for the majority of it.
Doing the business side of being an indie artist is, as I said, a full-time job. So sometimes having that little extra help, as long as you can still do your own thing without somebody telling you you have to put out this, so many, a month, a year, whatever,
Yeah, yeah. Like
but
it'll be nice when somebody says, "Oh, you got to put out holiday tunes, a Christmas thing." Not that I'm against that, but it's like I want to do it because it's the passion.
right, right, exactly. Absolutely. So how has your music evolved since you first started?
Well, it's doing great. I think for me more since I first started playing. I mean, I'm a hundred times better musician. I think everything technique, solos, listening. Because over time, I remember Benny Golson telling me in 2008, 7, 6, all that when I was mentoring, I wanted to go from point A to point B right then and there, and I wanted to be the famous blah blah blah. And I was I had a lot of ego, and he told me, he says, young man, you have to be seasoned, and you have to be patient, and you have to let it evolve, and you'll get to where you want to be. You'll never get to where you want to be, but you'll understand what I'm saying. And Mark, I now realize, I don't know how many years it's been. It's been quite a while. That ego's gone, that arrogance, and I'm now very humble, very appreciative, and I honor the music, and I have seasoned myself. It's pretty cool. I can
You can see your growth.
yeah, it's amazing growth, and I want to learn every day. Every day I'm growing. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this. All right, I heard this person doing this lick, and I want to try this. And
Yeah, and that's how you evolve. I mean, right? I mean, really, that's great advice. And so, having that advice, what advice would you give somebody starting out in the music world?
I think the biggest thing is definitely. I see a lot of young musicians today who kind of doing the wrong thing to get to where they want to be. I remember Dwayne Eubanks, who's on my album. He's a trumpet player, and he's the famous Eubanks family, where his brother Kevin and Robin. I was talking to him one day, and he told me, he said, I hope I don't get him in trouble. He said, it's not about winning a Grammy. It's not about being on the cover of Downbeat. It's not about this. It's about the music. And I think a lot of the younger musicians today, and I agree with them, are more worried about making sure their reputation, and they have, oh my God, I got to win this Grammy, or I got to get with this record label, or this or this. And they forget what really it's all about, and the music and the humbling. And those are the ones that, and even some of the veterans out there, I've experienced that since I've got back into it. To me, I think it's more important that the real musician needs to be approachable, number one. And number two, they need to always want to be learning and be humble and have the integrity, and things will take care of itself. And if they don't, oh well, it's all about the music, and you do what you do, and you enjoy what you do.
Right.
I did a festival out in North Carolina recently, and there was a couple musicians out there who I've listened to many years, and man, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to meet them. And I was disappointed, because it's an aura of like, okay, I felt that. Not all the musicians the rest of most of the musicians were great, right. But I felt like they weren't approachable, and that bothered me, because I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I'd never want to get to that point. I always want to help the young, whoever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. Great advice.
Yeah.
Would you change anything in your career? Is there any pivotal time that you might have wanted to do it differently?
When I was younger and I did my first album and things were moving so quick, I feel like I was dumb and stupid. And I did some really stupid things where I kind of burned some bridges with other musicians and other people, because I felt like, look at me, I'm here and blah. So I kind of look at that, kind of like what you came back with the last question. I think that's what I would have done different, realizing that this is this is an ongoing thing, that it doesn't really happen for most overnight. There's not a whole lot of Samara Joys out there that get noticed very quickly, but I think it's important to know this is a long journey.
Just got to keep working at it, and so far you've been doing very well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, so what's next?
Well, I'm already starting to compose new music. I'm putting ideas in place. My wife had a phenomenal idea, and she kind of threw it out to me. And I was like, she says, I promise you can't put that out there to anybody yet. But I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, really cool. But because it's connecting different things in our country right now, and kind of doing some different, something different that I think is really going to kind of go outside of the jazz area, but also unite the jazz with the rest of, different things that are happening in our country and different subject matter. So I think loving that. And I'm just trying to think what else. I guess composing and arranging is the hardest thing, because it's not like, for me, I can sit down and just say, okay, start playing, and this is what I want to do. I'm really intellectual, where I think about it like, okay, this is where I want to go. And it may take a month for me to really figure out,
work through it.
It's going to be.
All right. Well, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
My pocketbook's not. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's great. All right. So, where can everybody find you?
Well, if you go to joebaione.com, you can click on, my calendar to see the upcoming shows coming up. I'm also all over social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X. What is the new Threads?
Yep.
Gosh, TikTok. I'm even on TikTok. A lot of my videos there. Yeah. And I like TikTok. TikTok's been interesting because I have such a huge following with the younger age that surprised the heck out of me. And, I get so many messages and they love hearing it and they love the video. So I'm like, wow. So yeah, I'm everywhere there, and send me an email if you want, Joe at joebaione.com, whatever. So.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for being here with me on the R2RB Indie Artist Podcast. I appreciate you and I really do enjoy your music.
Well, I appreciate you and thanks for having it. And thanks for doing the podcast and having all these interviews and stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, you are welcome.